The night Lucas Hart brought his blonde mistress to the charity gala, he thought he had everything under control until his estranged black wife walked through those same doors carrying their twin sons. What happened next would expose 3 years of lies, force a man to choose between his family's fortune and his family's heart, and prove that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with the most devastating betrayals. But this wasn't just about a cheating husband getting caught. This was about a mother's quiet dignity, a grandmother's shocking transformation, and a love so powerful it would either destroy everything they'd built or forge something unbreakable from the ashes. The cameras were rolling, the donors were watching, and Lucas Hart was about to learn that some choices can't be undone. Drop a comment below and let me know what city you're watching from, because this story of love, shame, and redemption could happen anywhere. But it takes real courage to choose family over reputation. The November air bit sharp against Lucas Hart's neck as he stepped from the black town car. His tie felt too tight. His smile felt faker. The camera flashes made everything worse. "Mr. Hart," a photographer called out. "Look this way." Lucas turned, his hand steady on Ivy Lane's lower back. She looked perfect. Golden hair swept up just right, a navy dress that cost more than most people made in a month. Everything his mother had wanted. Everything that wasn't Mara. "The City Museum looks wonderful tonight," Ivy said, her voice warm and easy. She knew how to work a crowd, how to say the right things, how to make him look good. That's why he'd asked her to come with him tonight. Not because he loved her, not because she made him laugh until his stomach hurt like Mara did, but because she fit, because she made sense to the donors who wrote big checks to the Hart Family Foundation, because she was white. The thought made his stomach twist. He pushed it down. Tonight was about business, about keeping the foundation running smooth, about making his mother happy. "Lucas," Mrs. Whitmore, a major donor, waved from the red carpet. "What a lovely evening." He guided Ivy over, his smile sliding back into place. "Mrs. Whitmore, you look wonderful. Have you met Ivy Lane? She runs marketing for Daniels and Associates." They shook hands, made small talk about the exhibit, about the weather, about nothing that mattered. A young staffer with a headset hurried past them. "Remember," she was saying into her microphone, "the gala is family-friendly until 7 p.m. After that, we shift to the adult reception. Family-friendly." Lucas's chest tightened. Mara was supposed to have the twins tonight. Rosa, their neighbor, was going to babysit. He'd checked with Mara 3 times to make sure. He pulled out his phone. No missed calls, no texts. Good. Everything was going according to plan. "Lucas," Ivy touched his arm. "You okay?" "Yeah, sorry. Just checking something." But as he slipped his phone back into his jacket, movement near the museum entrance caught his eye. A flash of deep purple fabric. A double stroller with 2 little heads barely visible under soft blankets. His heart stopped. Mara. She moved with that same quiet grace she'd always had. Chin up, shoulders back, like she owned every room she entered, even when people stared, even when they whispered. Even when her husband was standing 30 feet away with another woman, she wore a simple purple dress that hugged her curves in all the right places. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun that showed off her neck. The neck he'd kissed every morning for the first year they were married, before everything got complicated, before his mother started asking when they were going to have children who looked more like the family, before he started working late to avoid going home, before Ivy. "Oh no," he whispered. Mara was struggling with the stroller. One of the twins, Noah, probably, since he was always fussier, was crying. She knelt down beside the stroller, her voice soft and soothing. "Shh, baby boy. I know you don't like all these people." Lucas started walking before he'd even decided to move. His feet carried him across the red carpet, past the photographers, past the donors who called his name. "Lucas?" Ivy's voice faded behind him. "Where are you going?" He reached Mara just as she stood up, Noah in her arms. The baby's face was red and scrunched up with tears. "You can take him," Mara said without looking up. Her voice was steady. Matter of fact, like they were still a team. Lucas reached out automatically. Noah settled against his shoulder with a little sigh, tiny fist grabbing onto Lucas's jacket. The familiar weight of his son made Lucas's throat tight. He'd missed this. God, he'd missed this. "How did you—" he started. "Rosa got a migraine," Mara said, adjusting Nico's blanket in the stroller. "Had to cancel last minute. I couldn't leave them with just anyone." Of course. Rosa was the only babysitter Mara trusted. They'd known each other since Mara moved to the building 2 years ago. Rosa had helped through the twins' first weeks when Lucas was traveling for work, when he was being an idiot. When he was choosing his mother's approval over his wife's needs. Mara, I don't. She looked up at him for the first time. Her dark eyes were calm but guarded. Not here. Not tonight. Around them, people were starting to notice. Lucas could feel the stares, the whispers, Mrs. Whitmore's confused expression. A few people had their phones out, and Ivy. Sweet, trusting Ivy was walking toward them with a smile that was about to break apart. Lucas? Ivy's voice was bright but uncertain. Is everything okay? Mara's jaw tightened almost invisibly. She'd always done that when she was bracing herself for pain. Ivy, Lucas said, Noah still warm against his shoulder. This is... The words stuck in his throat. How did he explain? How did he put this into words that wouldn't destroy everyone standing here? We're complicated, he finally managed. Mara's eyebrow went up, just barely. But Lucas had been married to her for 3 years. He knew that look. Complicated, she repeated, her voice flat. Ivy looked between them, understanding starting to dawn in her blue eyes. Lucas, what? Excuse me, a cheerful voice interrupted them. Are you folks here for the gala? A young museum staffer bounced over, clipboard in hand and a bright smile on her face. She looked like she was maybe 22, fresh out of college and excited about everything. I'm Jenny. I'm helping with family check-in tonight. Do you need help getting inside? I can grab you a program, and we have high chairs if you need them. She beamed at them like they were the picture-perfect family. Like Lucas wasn't standing here with his wife and his, whatever Ivy was, and 2 babies who were about to change everything. That's very kind, Mara said smoothly. We're fine, thank you. But Jenny was already pulling programs from her bag. Oh, you're going to love tonight's presentation. Mr. Hart is speaking about the Foundation's new family initiatives. Are you members of the Foundation? The irony wasn't lost on any of them. Lucas, still holding Noah, felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool air. Something like that, Mara said. Ivy's face had gone pale. She was looking at Noah, really looking at him, taking in the dark curls that matched Mara's, the green eyes that matched Lucas's, the way the baby's tiny hand was still gripping Lucas's jacket like he belonged there. Lucas, Ivy said quietly, is this your son? The question hung in the air between them. Around them, people were still arriving for the gala, laughing, talking about art and charity and who was wearing what. Normal people having a normal evening, not like them, not like this mess Lucas had created. Noah made a soft sound and rubbed his face against Lucas's shoulder. In the stroller, Nico was starting to wake up, little arms stretching under his blanket. Yes, Lucas said finally. This is Noah, and that's Nico. Ivy's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. Not here, not in public. She had too much class for that. And Mara is. His wife, Mara said, stepping forward slightly. Not aggressive, just claiming her space. I'm his wife. These are our sons. The words hit Ivy like a physical blow. Lucas could see it in the way her shoulders pulled back, in the way her breathing got shallow. Your wife, Ivy repeated. Ivy, I can explain. No. Ivy held up one hand. Her voice was steady, but Lucas could hear the hurt underneath. No, I think I understand plenty. She reached into her small purse and pulled out the museum program Jenny had given her. She held it out to Lucas. I hope you have a lovely evening with your family, she said. Then she turned and walked back toward the street, her heels clicking on the pavement. She didn't run. She didn't make a scene. She just left, dignity intact, even as her world fell apart. Lucas wanted to go after her, wanted to explain that it wasn't supposed to happen like this, that he'd never meant to hurt her. But Noah was heavy and warm in his arms, and Mara was standing there in her purple dress, waiting to see what he would choose. Lucas, darling, the voice cut through the crowd like a knife. Lucas's mother appeared as if summoned, her silver hair perfect and her smile sharp. Vivian Hart could navigate any social situation, could smooth over any crisis. But even she looked thrown by this particular scene. Mother, Lucas said carefully. Vivian's eyes flicked over the situation quickly. Mara, the stroller, Noah in Lucas's arms, the space where Ivy had been standing just moments before. Well, she said after a pause, this is unexpected. Mrs. Hart. Mara's voice was polite but cool. They'd met exactly 4 times. Lucas's mother had made sure it stayed that way. Mara, Vivian's smile could have cut glass. How lovely to see you. And the children, of course. She said, children, like they were someone else's responsibility. Not her grandsons, not family. I think perhaps it would be best, Vivian continued, her voice low and smooth, if you took the boys home. To avoid any confusion, Mara's chin went up another notch. We're attending the gala. As a family. Of course, but you understand, the donors can be traditional, and there are photographers. Mother, Lucas's voice was sharper than he'd intended. Noah stirred against his shoulder. It's fine. But Vivian was already in crisis management mode. Perhaps through the side entrance, just until things settle down? We'll sit wherever families sit, Mara said firmly, just like everyone else. A photographer had noticed the little drama playing out. He was trying to be discreet, but Lucas could see him adjusting his camera angle. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of a phone camera clicking. Someone had taken their picture. Mara heard it too. Her eyes found the person with the phone, a young woman with trendy glasses and a press badge. A blogger, probably. The kind who wrote about local events and society news. Interesting evening, the blogger murmured to her friend, already typing on her phone. Lucas felt everything spinning out of control. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He was supposed to give his speech, charm the donors, keep everyone happy. Instead, he was standing here with a crying baby, while his mother hissed suggestions about side doors, and his wife stood like a queen who refused to be hidden. We should go in, he said finally. Vivian's eyebrows went up. Lucas, we should go in, he repeated. Together. Mara looked at him for a long moment, like she was trying to figure out if he meant it. Together, she said finally. Noah had settled down, but Nico was starting to fuss in the stroller. Mara knelt down to soothe him, her movements easy and practiced. She'd been doing this alone for months while Lucas figured his life out. While Lucas chose the easy path over the right one. There we go, baby boy, she murmured. Just tired, aren't you? All these people and lights. She stood up and looked at Lucas again. Are you ready? He nodded, shifting Noah to a more comfortable position. The baby's weight felt right in his arms, real in a way nothing had felt for months. Lead the way, he said. They walked toward the museum entrance together, Mara pushing the stroller with practiced ease, Lucas carrying Noah like he'd done it 1,000 times. Vivian following behind, probably already planning damage control. The photographer, he could see her press badge, said, Kayla Brooks, lifestyle blogger, snapped another picture as they passed. Lucas knew that photo would be online within the hour, probably with some caption about family drama or society scandals. The Hart Family Foundation had never had this kind of attention before, but for the first time in months, Lucas didn't care what the headlines would say tomorrow. He was walking into that museum with his wife and his sons, and that felt like the most honest thing he'd done in a very long time. Inside the museum's grand atrium, the gala was in full swing. Crystal glasses clinked. Designer dresses swept across marble floors. Classical music drifted down from speakers, hidden among the towering columns. It was everything Vivian Hart had envisioned when she'd planned this event 6 months ago. Elegant, refined, the kind of evening that attracted serious donors and favorable press coverage. What she hadn't envisioned was her son wheeling a double stroller through the crowd, while his wife, his black wife, who she'd hoped would stay quietly in the background, commanded attention simply by existing. Mara moved through the crowd like she belonged there, which, Lucas realized with a sharp pang of guilt, she did. She was his wife, the mother of his children. She had every right to be here. He'd just been too much of a coward to make sure she knew that. Mr. Hart, a donor approached with a huge smile. Wonderful turnout tonight. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I'm so glad you could make it. Mr. Davidson's eyes moved to Noah, still content in Lucas's arms. And who is this little fellow? This is my son, Noah. And this, he gestured to the stroller, is Nico. They're twins. Twins? How wonderful. 8 months old? Yes, sir. Born in February. And your lovely wife? Mr. Davidson looked expectantly at Mara. Mara, Lucas said, his voice stronger now. This is my wife, Mara. Mara smiled and shook Mr. Davidson's hand. It's nice to meet you. The pleasure is mine. What a beautiful family you have, Lucas. It was such a simple thing to say, such a normal thing. But Lucas felt something tight in his chest start to loosen. Thank you, Mara said softly. We think they're pretty special." Mr. Davidson chatted for another minute about his own grandchildren, then moved on to greet other guests. As he walked away, Lucas caught him saying to his wife, "What a lovely couple. The Hart boy has done well for himself." Mara overheard it too. Some of the tension left her shoulders. "Mr. Hart?" They turned to find Jenny, the cheerful staffer from outside, approaching with a high chair under each arm. "I thought you might need these," she said, beaming. "The cafe area has been set up for families tonight. Changing station in the restroom just off the main hall, and I can grab bottles if you need to warm anything up." "That's very thoughtful," Mara said. "Thank you. Of course, we love having families here. Art should be for everyone, right?" She bounced away again, leaving Lucas and Mara standing by themselves for the first time since the sidewalk. "She's sweet," Mara said quietly. "Yeah, she is." They stood there for a moment, watching the crowd. Noah was getting heavy in Lucas's arms, but he didn't want to put him down, didn't want to break this fragile peace they'd found. "I should probably feed them soon," Mara said, "before they get cranky." "The cafe area?" That would work. They made their way through the crowd slowly. People smiled at the babies, made soft comments about how cute they were, how well behaved. Lucas found himself standing straighter, walking with more purpose. These were his sons. This was his wife. This was his family. Why had he been so afraid of that? "Lucas." He turned to find Dr. Emily Chen, the museum's director, approaching with a warm smile. "Emily, thank you for hosting us tonight. The space looks incredible." "Thank you. We're so excited about the Foundation's new initiatives." Her eyes moved to the twins. "And I see you've brought some very special guests. My sons, Noah and Nico, and my wife, Mara." "How wonderful. I'm Dr. Chen, the museum director. We're always thrilled to have young families here." Mara shook her hand. "The museum is beautiful. The twins are probably too young to appreciate the art yet, but I love the idea of exposing them early." "Absolutely. Research shows that early exposure to art and culture has incredible benefits for brain development. You're giving them a gift just by being here." It was exactly the kind of conversation Lucas had imagined having with Mara months ago, back when he'd first started working with the Foundation, back when he'd thought they could build something together, before he'd gotten scared and stupid and started listening to his mother's pointed comments about appropriate choices and Foundation image. "I should let you get to your evening," Dr. Chen said. "But please, let me know if you need anything, and bring these little ones back any time." She moved on, leaving them feeling welcomed, accepted. "She seems nice," Mara said. "She is. She's been great to work with." They reached the cafe area, which had been set up with several small tables and the high chairs Jenny had mentioned. It was quieter here, away from the main reception. Lucas helped Mara get the twins settled, Noah in one high chair, Nico in another. They were both starting to get hungry and fussy. "I have bottles," Mara said, digging in the diaper bag, "but I should probably warm them up." "I'll find Jenny." She said something about helping with that. As Lucas walked back toward the main hall, he felt his phone buzz with a text. His stomach dropped when he saw who it was from. "Ivy, I'm sorry for leaving like that. I need some time to think. Please don't call tonight." He stared at the message for a long moment. Part of him wanted to text back, to explain, to somehow make this hurt less for everyone. But what could he say? That he'd lied to her for months? That he'd used her to avoid dealing with his real problems? That he'd been too weak to choose his family until his family forced him to choose? "Mr. Hart?" Jenny appeared at his elbow. "Everything okay? You look a little pale." "Yeah, just. It's been a long evening. My wife was wondering if you could help warm up some bottles?" "Of course. Right this way." As they walked back to the cafe area, Lucas caught sight of Kayla Brooks, the blogger, across the room. She was talking to someone while looking at her phone, probably already working on her story. He wondered what she would write, what narrative she would create from the scattered pieces she'd witnessed tonight. He hoped she'd get it right, that she'd see what he was finally starting to see. That love wasn't about finding someone who fit your image. It was about becoming someone worthy of the love you'd been given, even when you'd almost thrown it away. When Lucas returned with Jenny and the warmed bottles, Mara was sitting between the two high chairs, speaking softly to both babies in that calm, musical voice she used when they were fussy. I know. You're tired and hungry and there are too many people, but Daddy's coming back with your bottles, and then maybe we can find somewhere quiet to sit." "Daddy," The word hit Lucas square in the chest. He'd missed so many feedings, so many bedtimes, so many of these small, perfect moments. "Here we go," Jenny said cheerfully, handing over the bottles. "Perfect temperature, and I brought some burp cloths, just in case." "Thank you," Mara said. "You've been incredibly kind." Jenny beamed and bounced away again. Lucas settled into the chair across from Mara and reached for Noah. "I can take him," he said. Mara hesitated for just a moment, then nodded. "He's been extra fussy today. Growing spurt, I think." Lucas lifted Noah from the high chair and settled him in his arms. The baby's eyes were wide and serious, studying his father's face like he was trying to figure something out. "Hey there, buddy," Lucas said softly. I know I haven't been around as much as I should have." Noah made a small sound and reached for the bottle. Lucas adjusted his hold, watching his son's face relax as he began to drink. Across the table, Mara was feeding Nico with practiced ease. She looked tired, Lucas realized, more tired than she'd looked at the entrance. "How are you doing?" he asked quietly. "Really?" Mara looked up from Nico, surprised by the question. "I'm managing." "That's not what I asked." She studied his face for a moment, like she was trying to decide if he really wanted the truth. "I'm tired," she said finally. "The twins are sleeping better now, but they're still waking up twice a night, and I've been trying to keep up with some freelance work when they nap. But it's hard," he finished. "Yeah, it's hard." Lucas felt guilt settle heavy in his stomach. He'd been living in his downtown apartment for 3 months, sleeping through the night, while Mara handled everything alone. "I should have been there," he said. "Yes, you should have. No sugarcoating, no making him feel better about his choices. Just the truth." "I want to be there now," he said. "If you'll let me." Mara's hand stilled on Nico's bottle. "What does that mean, exactly?" "I mean," he paused, trying to find the right words. "I mean, I want to be their father, your husband. I want to stop hiding from what I want, because I'm afraid of what other people think." "And what do you want, Lucas?" The question was simple. The answer should have been simple too. "I want to come home," he said quietly, "to you and the boys. I want to wake up for the 2 a.m., feeding and change diapers and take them to the park on Saturday mornings. I want to introduce you as my wife, without hesitating. I want to be the family we were supposed to be." Mara was quiet for a long moment, focused on Nico's bottle. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with tears she wasn't letting fall. "You hurt me," she said simply. "You left us. You brought another woman to this gala because you were ashamed of us." "I wasn't." "Yes, you were. You were ashamed that your wife is black, that our children are biracial, that we don't fit your mother's idea of the perfect heart family." Lucas wanted to argue, to defend himself. But she was right, and they both knew it. "You're right," he said instead. "I was afraid of what people would say, of what it would mean for the foundation, of disappointing my mother, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mara." "Sorry isn't enough," she said softly. "Words aren't enough. If you want to come home, you have to choose us. Every day, in public and in private, when it's easy and when it's hard, when your mother disapproves and when donors ask uncomfortable questions. You have to choose us." "I will. I am." "You say that now. But what about next week? Next month? What happens the first time someone makes a comment about our family? What happens when your mother starts pressuring you again?" Lucas looked down at Noah, who had finished his bottle and was now making soft, sleepy sounds. His son's tiny hand was wrapped around Lucas's finger, holding on tight. "Then I'll choose you again," he said. "And again. As many times as it takes." "Lucas." "Mr. Hart?" They looked up to find a well-dressed man in his 60s approaching their table. Lucas recognized him immediately, William Morrison, one of their biggest donors. "Mr. Morrison," Lucas said, carefully shifting Noah to his shoulder. "Good to see you. And you? I hope I'm not interrupting anything important?" "Not at all. This is my wife, Mara, and our sons." Mr. Morrison's eyebrows went up slightly, but his smile stayed warm. "How wonderful. I had no idea you were married, Lucas." "We've been keeping things quiet," Mara said smoothly, "with the twins being so young." Of course. Twins must be quite a handful. My daughter had twins, wore her right out, but she wouldn't trade them for anything." He chatted with them for a few minutes about babies and sleepless nights and the joys of parenthood. When he walked away, he clapped Lucas on the shoulder. "You're a lucky man," he said. "Don't forget that. As Mr. Morrison disappeared back into the crowd, Lucas felt something shift inside him. A door closing on his old fears. A window opening on something new. He didn't seem shocked, he said quietly. "People aren't as terrible as you think they are," Mara replied. "Most of them, anyway." Lucas was about to respond when he heard his name being called from across the room. The evening's MC was at the podium, checking his notes. "Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please." The crowd began to quiet and move toward the main hall. Lucas felt his stomach drop. His speech. He was supposed to give a speech about the Foundation's new family initiatives, about bringing art and culture to underserved communities. The irony wasn't lost on him. "You should go," Mara said quietly. "Come with me?" She looked down at the twins, both drowsy from their bottles. "They'll be cranky if there's too much noise and stimulation. Then I won't give the speech." "Lucas, that's ridiculous. This is your job. You're my family." The words hung between them, simple and true. Mara's eyes searched his face. "Give your speech," she said finally. "We'll wait here." Lucas hesitated. This felt like a test. Choose the stage or choose his family. Choose his career or choose what mattered. "Come with me," he said again. "Please, I want you there. Lucas, I want everyone to see us. Together. I want to give this speech with my wife and my sons in the front row, where they belong." Mara looked at him for a long moment. Then she glanced around the cafe area, where other families with young children were settling in for a quieter part of the evening. "They might cry," she said. "Then they cry. They're babies. People understand. Your mother won't be happy. My mother's happiness isn't my job anymore." That seemed to decide her. She stood up, reaching for the stroller. "Okay, let's go." They gathered their things quickly. Lucas took Nico, while Mara pushed the empty stroller. Together, they walked toward the main hall where the evening's program was about to begin. As they found seats in the third row, not hidden in the back, but right up front where everyone could see them, Lucas felt his phone buzz again. This time it was his mother. "What are you doing? This is not what we discussed." He looked at the message for a moment, then deleted it without responding. When the MC called his name, Lucas stood up and walked to the podium. But before he began his prepared remarks about family initiatives and community outreach, he looked out at the crowd until his eyes found Mara. She was holding both babies now, one in each arm. Nico was asleep against her shoulder. Noah was wide awake, looking around at all the lights and faces with curious eyes. His family, right there in the front row, where they belonged, where they'd always belonged. "Good evening," Lucas said into the microphone, his voice steady and clear. "I want to thank you all for being here tonight to support the Hart Family Foundation's new initiatives." He paused, his eyes finding Mara's again. "Family," he continued, "means everything to us. And tonight, I'm honored to share this moment with mine." In the third row, Mara's eyes widened slightly. Then, for the first time that evening, she smiled. A real smile. The kind that reached her eyes and lit up her whole face. The kind that reminded Lucas why he'd fallen in love with her in the first place, and why he was going to spend every day for the rest of his life proving he was worthy of that smile. The ride home was quiet, except for the soft sounds of the twins breathing in their car seats. Lucas had called for a ride-share with proper car seats, something he wouldn't have thought to do 6 months ago, something Mara had to teach him when the babies were born. The driver, an older man named Miguel, had smiled when they got in. "Beautiful family," he'd said simply. "Twin boys? You're going to have your hands full in a few years." Lucas had felt something warm spread through his chest at those words. Beautiful family. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. Mara sat beside him, staring out the window at the city lights. She hadn't said much since they'd left the museum. Just gathered their things quietly while people shook Lucas's hand and told him what a lovely speech he'd given. What a lovely family he had. "Mara," he said softly, not wanting to wake the babies. Thank you. For tonight. For letting me. For letting us be a family up there." She turned to look at him, her face unreadable in the dim light from the street lamps they passed. "That's what we are," she said quietly. "A family. We always were." "I know. I forgot that for a while." "You didn't forget. You were ashamed." The words hit like a punch to the gut because they were true. He had been ashamed. Not of Mara herself, never of her, but of what other people might think, of how it might look, of disappointing his mother. "I was," he said, "and I'm sorry." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix the nights I spent feeding 2 babies by myself while you were at your apartment pretending we didn't exist. Lucas felt his throat tighten. I wasn't pretending you didn't exist. What would you call it then? He didn't have an answer for that. Because she was right. He had been pretending, living like a single man, while his wife raised their children alone. I want to do better, he said finally. I want that too. But wanting isn't enough, Lucas. You have to actually do it. Tell me how. Tell me what you need. Mara was quiet for a long moment, watching the familiar streets of their neighborhood slide past the window. I need you to be present, she said. Not just when it's convenient, not just when you feel guilty. Every day. Even when they're crying and you're tired and you'd rather be somewhere else. Okay. I need you to stop checking with your mother before you make decisions about our family. That one stung because it was true. How many times had he called Vivian first? Asked for her opinion before talking to his own wife? Okay, he said again. And I need you to understand that I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to sneak around or use side entrances or pretend I'm the nanny when people ask who I am. I'm your wife. These are your sons. If that embarrasses you, it doesn't. It did tonight, until you were forced to choose. The car slowed as they approached Mara's building. Their building, technically, though Lucas hadn't slept there in 3 months. You're right, he said, but I'm choosing now. I chose tonight. One night doesn't erase 3 months, Lucas. The car stopped. Miguel got out to help them with the car seats and stroller. As they gathered their things on the sidewalk, Lucas felt the weight of everything they'd lost. Everything he'd thrown away because he was too weak to stand up to his mother's expectations. Can I? He started, then stopped. Would it be okay if I came up, just to help get them settled? Mara looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded. Just to help with the babies. Don't read more into it than that. I won't. But as they rode the elevator up to the 4th floor, Lucas felt hope stirring in his chest anyway. She'd let him come up. That was something. The apartment was exactly as he remembered it. Warm, lived in. The kind of place where a family actually lived, instead of just existing. There were toys scattered on the living room floor, tiny socks draped over the back of the couch, a basket of clean baby clothes waiting to be put away. Evidence of the life Mara had been building without him. I'll get them changed and down, Mara said, lifting Nico from his car seat. You don't have to. Let me help. She hesitated, then nodded. Noah's pajamas are in the dresser. 2nd drawer. They worked together in the nursery, changing tiny clothes and singing soft lullabies. It was the most natural thing in the world, and the most foreign thing imaginable. Natural because these were his sons, his family, his home. Foreign because he'd been away for so long that even Nico seemed to study him carefully, like he was trying to remember who this man was. There we go, buddy, Lucas murmured as he settled Noah in his crib. Daddy's here. The word felt rusty in his mouth. When was the last time he'd called himself Daddy? When was the last time he'd done bedtime? Too long. Way too long. When both boys were finally asleep, Lucas and Mara stood in the hallway outside the nursery. The apartment was quiet, except for the soft hum of the baby monitor. They look good, Lucas said quietly. Healthy. Happy. They are. Most of the time. Are you? The question slipped out before he could stop it. Mara looked up at him, surprise flickering across her face. Am I what? Happy. Healthy. Are you taking care of yourself? She laughed, but there wasn't much humor in it. I'm surviving. That's about the best I can do right now. Mara, it's late, Lucas. I need to get some sleep while they're down. Of course. I should go, but he didn't move, and neither did she. I miss this, he said quietly. I miss them. I miss you. I miss us. You chose to leave. I know, and I'm choosing to stay now. If you'll let me. Mara wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly looking small and tired. I can't keep getting my hopes up, she said. I can't keep waiting for you to decide that we're worth fighting for. You are. You're worth everything. Then prove it. The challenge hung between them, simple and impossible at the same time. How? He asked. Show up. Every day. Be the father and husband you promised to be when we got married. Starting when? Starting tomorrow morning. Noah will be up at 6 for his first bottle. Nico usually sleeps until 7. If you want to be here, be here. If not, I'll be here. Don't promise if you don't mean it. I mean it. She studied his face in the dim hallway light, looking for something, some sign that he was serious this time. Okay, she said finally. Tomorrow at 6. Don't be late. I won't. And Lucas? She opened the front door, waiting for him to leave. Don't bring flowers or grand gestures or speeches about how sorry you are. Just bring yourself, and maybe some extra formula. We're running low. Lucas nodded, stepping into the hallway. 6 a.m. Formula. Got it. The door closed softly behind him. He stood there for a moment, listening to the quiet sounds of the building settling for the night. Then he pulled out his phone and set an alarm for 5:30 a.m. He was going to be there at 6. He was going to show up, starting tomorrow. Lucas's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., just like he'd planned. He was showered, dressed, and standing outside Mara's door at 5:58 with a container of formula and 2 cups of coffee. His heart was pounding like he was going to job interview, which, in a way, he was. He was interviewing for the chance to be a father, a husband, a man worthy of the family he'd almost lost. At exactly 6 o'clock, he knocked softly. The door opened almost immediately. Mara stood there in an oversized sweater and leggings, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired, but unsurprised. "You came," she said. "I said I would." "Yes, but you've said a lot of things." "Fair enough." He held up the formula and coffee. "Peace offering?" She stepped aside to let him in. The apartment smelled like baby powder and the lavender lotion Mara used before bed, like home. "Noah's been up for 10 minutes, she said, accepting one of the coffee cups. "He's getting impatient." "Where is he?" "Nursery." "I was just about to get his bottle ready." "I'll do it." Lucas headed for the kitchen, muscle memory taking over. Wash hands, check the water temperature, mix the formula, test it on his wrist. He'd done this hundreds of times in those first few months after the twins were born. Before he'd started working late. Before he'd started staying at the office until he was sure Mara would be asleep when he got home. Before he'd become a stranger in his own life. When he walked into the nursery with the bottle, Noah was standing in his crib, tiny hands gripping the rail. His face was red and scrunched up with the particular frustration of a hungry 8-month-old. "Hey there, buddy," Lucas said softly. "Daddy's here." Noah stopped crying for a moment, studying Lucas's face with those serious green eyes. Then he reached up, making the grabbing motion that meant pick me up right now. Lucas lifted his son carefully, settling into the rocking chair by the window. Noah latched onto the bottle immediately, little hands wrapping around Lucas's fingers. "There we go. Better?" In the other crib, Nico was still sleeping peacefully. He'd always been the calmer of the two, the one who slept through his brother's crying and woke up with a smile instead of demands. Lucas rocked slowly, watching Noah drink. Outside the window, the city was starting to wake up. Early morning joggers, people heading to work. Normal life continuing while Lucas tried to figure out how to rebuild his own. "He missed you." Lucas looked up to find Mara standing in the doorway, coffee cup in her hands. "Did he?" "The first few weeks after you left, he would cry every evening around 6. That was when you used to get home. When you used to take over so I could shower, or make dinner, or just sit down for 5 minutes. Guilt twisted in Lucas's chest. "Mara, I'm not saying it to make you feel bad. I'm saying it because he remembers you. They both do. Children are more resilient than we think, but they're not stupid. They know when someone important disappears from their life." Noah had finished his bottle and was now making soft, sleepy sounds against Lucas's shoulder. His tiny body was warm and heavy with contentment. "I won't disappear again," Lucas said quietly. "You can't promise that. Life happens, work happens, people change their minds. I won't change my mind about this, about them, about you." Mara was quiet for a long moment, watching them rock together in the early morning light. "We should probably put him back down," she said finally. "He'll sleep another hour or 2 if we're lucky." Lucas stood carefully, settling Noah back in his crib. The baby fussed for a moment, then rolled over and stuck his thumb in his mouth. "He does that when he's really tired," Mara said softly. "The thumb thing. I remember." But the truth was, he'd forgotten. He'd forgotten so many little details about his sons' lives, their habits, their preferences, the way Nico always wanted his stuffed elephant at nap time, the way Noah laughed when you made funny faces during diaper changes. He'd been gone 3 months. In baby time, that was forever. In the kitchen, Mara was already preparing Nico's bottle for when he woke up. She moved with efficient ease, someone who'd been doing this routine alone for too long. "What can I do?" Lucas asked. "You can sit down and drink your coffee." You look exhausted. I'm fine. When's the last time you slept through the night? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? I mean, you look like someone who's been lying awake staring at the ceiling, which, knowing you, is probably exactly what you've been doing. She wasn't wrong. He'd spent most of last night replaying every moment of the gala, every conversation, every choice that had led them to this moment. I've been thinking, he said, about what you said, about showing up, about being present. Mara leaned against the counter, coffee cup cradled in her hands. And I want to know what that looks like. Specifically, day to day, what do you need from me? Lucas, I'm serious. I've been living like a bachelor for 3 months while you've been raising 2 babies alone. I don't know what your schedule looks like anymore. I don't know what you need or when you need it or how to be helpful instead of just being in the way. Mara studied his face for a long moment, like she was trying to decide if he was really asking or just making noise. You want a schedule? She said finally. If that's what it takes. Okay. Noah wakes up at 6. First bottle, then he plays in his bouncy seat while I get Nico up around 7. Nico's bottle, then breakfast for me if I'm lucky. Morning naps from 8:30 to 10, during which I try to shower and maybe do a load of laundry. Afternoon naps from 1 to 3, during which I work on freelance projects if I can stay awake. Dinner at 6, baths at 7. Bedtime routine starts at 7:30. They're usually down by 8:30, at which point I clean bottles, prep for the next day, and collapse on the couch until the first night feeding around 11. Lucas listened, trying to picture Mara managing all of this alone. Day after day, week after week. What about weekends? He asked. What about them? Babies don't know it's Saturday. I meant, do you ever get a break? Time to yourself? Mara's laugh was tired. Rosa helps when she can, but she has her own family, her own life. I can't expect her to give up her weekend so I can pretend I don't have responsibilities. You shouldn't have to pretend anything. You should be able to count on their father. Yeah, well, that would be nice. The words stung because they were true. Lucas had been so focused on his own guilt and confusion that he'd forgotten the practical reality of what Mara was dealing with. 2 babies, alone, every day, every night. I want to help, he said, with all of it. The morning routine, the naps, the night feedings, whatever you need. Why now? What do you mean? Why now, Lucas? Why not 3 months ago when I was begging you to come home? Why not 2 months ago when I stopped calling because it hurt too much? Why now? Lucas set down his coffee cup, trying to find words that didn't sound like excuses. Because last night, when I saw you walk into that museum with our sons, I remembered who I wanted to be, who I used to be before I got scared and stupid and started caring more about what other people thought than what was right. And what if you get scared again? What if your mother pressures you again? What if someone at work makes a comment about your diverse family? Then I'll remember last night. I'll remember the way it felt to introduce you as my wife, to hold Noah during my speech, to be proud of us instead of ashamed. Mara was quiet for a long moment, staring into her coffee cup. I want to believe you, she said finally. But I can't survive you leaving again. I can't put the boys through that. If you're going to do this, you have to be all in. No backing out when it gets hard. No running away when your mother disapproves. No more choosing everyone else over us. I'm all in. Prove it. From the nursery came the soft sounds of Nico starting to wake up. Mara pushed off from the counter, ready to start the morning routine. How? Lucas asked. Be here tomorrow at 6. And the day after that. And the day after that. Show me that this isn't just guilt or some midlife crisis. Show me that you actually want to be our husband and father, not just when it's convenient. She headed for the nursery, leaving Lucas alone in the kitchen with his cooling coffee and the weight of his promises. Tomorrow at 6. He could do that. He would do that. Starting now. The next morning, Lucas was there at 5:58 again, and the morning after that, and the morning after that. By Thursday, he'd fallen into a rhythm with the morning routine. Noah at 6, Nico at 7, breakfast prep while Mara showered. It felt good to be useful, to be needed. It felt like being part of a family again. But on Friday morning, everything changed. Lucas was in the kitchen warming Nico's bottle when Mara's phone buzzed on the counter. She was in the nursery with Noah, so Lucas glanced over without thinking. The notification preview made his stomach drop. Kayla Brooks, lifestyle blog. Mystery woman at Heart Gala revealed. He grabbed the phone, swiping to open the full article. What he saw made his blood run cold. There was a photo of him and Mara from the museum steps. She was kneeling beside the stroller, adjusting Nico's blanket. Lucas was standing nearby, holding Noah. The caption read, "Lucas Hart, Operations Director for the Hart Family Foundation, with an unidentified woman and children at Tuesday's charity gala." But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the comments. "Wait, isn't that his nanny? Why is she bringing the kids to a formal event? She's probably the babysitter. Hart's been seen around town with that blonde lately. Maybe she's the surrogate? Rich families do that sometimes. Whoever she is, she seems to know how to handle those babies. Professional childcare for sure." Lucas felt sick. Mara had been reduced to hired help in her own life. The mother of his children was being dismissed as staff. "Lucas," Mara's voice came from behind him. "Is Nico's bottle ready?" He turned, phone still in his hand. Mara took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "What is it?" He handed her the phone without a word, watched her face go carefully blank as she read. "Well," she said finally, her voice steady, "I guess that answers that." "Mara, no, it's fine. I expected this." She set the phone down and reached for Nico's bottle. "People see what they want to see. It's not fine. This is," he gestured helplessly at the phone, "this is exactly what I was afraid would happen." The words were out before he could stop them. Mara went very still. "What you were afraid would happen," she repeated slowly. You meant that you were right to be ashamed of us. You meant that bringing your black wife and biracial children to a public event was always going to cause problems." "No, that's not." "Then what did you mean, Lucas?" He stared at her, realizing he'd just proven her point. Even now, even after everything, his first instinct was to see this as a problem to be managed, instead of an injustice to be corrected. "I meant that I should have prepared better," he said slowly. "I should have made sure people knew who you were. I should have introduced you properly instead of letting people guess." "And how exactly would you have done that? Sent out a press release? Attention donors, Hart's wife is black. Please adjust your assumptions accordingly." "I could have corrected the blogger. I could have made sure she got the story right." "Could you? Or would that have been too much attention? Too much drama for the foundation?" Lucas felt like he was standing on quicksand. Every word he said made things worse. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally. "I want you to stop acting like this is my fault. Like our family existing in public is some kind of crisis that needs to be managed. I don't think that. Don't you?" From the nursery, Nico started crying. Full-throated, hungry baby cries that meant he was done waiting. "We should," Lucas started. "You should go," Mara said, picking up the bottle. "Mara, please. Let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. You saw that article, and your first thought was that you were right to be embarrassed of us. That this is what happens when Lucas Hart's family gets too much attention. That's not true, isn't it?" Nico's crying was getting louder. Mara headed for the nursery, then stopped in the doorway. "If you want to fix this," she said without turning around, "you'll figure out a way to correct the record. You'll make sure people know exactly who we are. Not because you have to, but because you want to." "Of course I want to. Prove it." She disappeared into the nursery, leaving Lucas alone with his phone and the weight of his failure. He read the article again. Then he read the comments. Each one was like a knife to the gut, not because they were necessarily malicious, but because they were so casually dismissive. His wife had been erased, made invisible, turned into hired help, and his first instinct had been to worry about the embarrassment instead of the injustice. Lucas pulled up Kayla Brooks's contact information. She'd included her email at the bottom of the article for corrections or additional information. He started typing. *Miss Brooks, I read your article about Tuesday's gala and wanted to provide some clarification. The woman in the photo is not my employee or childcare provider. She is my wife, Mara Ellis Hart, and the children are our sons, Noah and Nico. I would appreciate if you could update your article to reflect this accurate information. *. He paused, finger hovering over the send button. Once he sent this, there would be no taking it back. People would know. His mother would see it. The foundation board would have questions. There would be consequences. But there were already consequences. Mara was hurt. His sons had been reduced to a photo caption. His family had been dismissed. And all because he'd been too afraid to claim them publicly in the first place. Lucas hit send. Then he called his office and left a message saying he'd be in late. He had something more important to do. He had a family to fight for. When Mara emerged from the nursery 20 minutes later with a content Nico in her arms, she found Lucas still in the kitchen, typing on his phone. "You're still here," she said. "I emailed the blogger. Asked her to correct the article." Mara's eyebrows went up slightly. And I'm waiting for her to respond. Then I'm going to call the museum and make sure they have our correct information in their system. Then I'm going to update my foundation bio to include the fact that I'm married. Lucas, I should have done this months ago, years ago. I should have made sure everyone knew exactly who you are and how proud I am to be your husband. Mara settled into a chair at the kitchen table, adjusting Nico in her arms. Why didn't you? It was such a simple question. The answer should have been simple too. Because I was afraid, he said finally, of what my mother would say, of what the donors would think, of whether it would hurt the foundation's fundraising. And now I'm more afraid of losing you, of our sons growing up thinking their father was ashamed of them, of spending the rest of my life knowing I chose cowardice over family. Lucas's phone buzzed. Email from Kayla Brooks. Asterisk, Mr. Hart. Thank you for the clarification. I'll update the article immediately and include a note about the correction. For what it's worth, your family looked lovely at the gala. Would you be interested in doing a brief interview about the Foundation's family initiatives? I think our readers would love to hear about the work you're doing. Best regards, Kayla, asterisk. Lucas showed Mara the email. She read it twice, then looked up at him. What are you going to say? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to make sure she spells your name right. For the first time since Tuesday night, Mara smiled. A real smile that reached her eyes. Okay, she said. Okay, you can stay for breakfast. Rosa's coming by at 9 to help with the twins, and I have a freelance deadline to meet. But if you want to stick around and be useful. I want to be useful. Good. Because Nico needs to be changed. Noah's about to wake up cranky, and I haven't had a hot cup of coffee in approximately 6 months. Lucas stood up, reaching for his son. I can handle the diaper situation. You make fresh coffee. As he headed for the nursery with Nico, Lucas's phone buzzed again. This time, it was his mother. Vivian, we need to talk. Today, he looked at the message for a moment, then slipped his phone into his pocket without responding. His mother could wait. His family came first. Finally, Rosa arrived exactly at 9, as she always did. She was a woman in her 50s, with silver-streaked hair and the kind of calm energy that made babies stop crying and anxious parents breathe easier. Morning, Mija, she said to Mara, then looked at Lucas with mild surprise. And morning to you too. Nice to see you here. Nice to be here, Lucas said, meaning it. Rosa had been skeptical of him from the beginning. Not unfriendly, just a fool, like she was waiting to see what kind of man he really was. How are my boys today? She asked, reaching for Noah, who immediately snuggled into her arms like she was his favorite person in the world. Which, Lucas realized, she probably was. Rosa had been there for every milestone Lucas had missed, every first smile, every new sound, every tiny developmental victory. They're good, Mara said. Noah was up early, but Nico slept through the night again. That's my good boy, Rosa cooed to Nico, who was now in his bouncy seat, gumming a teething toy, learning to sleep like a big boy. She looked at Lucas again, studying his face. You look tired. I'm fine. Rosa had a way of making one syllable sound like a complete psychological evaluation. Mara, you go work. I've got these two. Lucas, you stay or you go. I'm staying, Lucas said, if that's okay. It's okay with me if it's okay with her. Rosa nodded toward Mara. But if you stay, you work. No sitting around being useless. Yes, ma'am. Mara gathered her laptop and headed for the bedroom she used as an office. I'll be in there if anyone needs me. Rosa, there's fresh formula in the fridge. And, Mija, I know where everything is. Go work. When Mara disappeared into the bedroom, Rosa turned to Lucas with a look that made him feel like he was 12 years old and in trouble. So, she said, you're back. I'm trying to be back. Trying is not the same as being. I know. Rosa settled Noah into his high chair and handed him a soft toy. That girl in there, she's strong, stronger than she should have to be. But strong doesn't mean she doesn't hurt. I know I hurt her. Do you? Because knowing and understanding are different things. Lucas felt like he was being tested. like Rosa was deciding whether he was worth her time and patience. "Tell me," he said. "Help me understand." Rosa looked at him for a long moment, then nodded like he'd passed some kind of preliminary exam. 3 months ago, she was crying every night after the babies went to sleep, trying to be quiet so I wouldn't hear through the walls, but I heard anyway. Guilt hit Lucas like a physical blow. He'd imagined Mara being angry. He'd imagined her moving on. He hadn't imagined her crying. She never said, "Of course she didn't. You think she was going to beg you to come home? She's got more pride than that. I should have known." "Yes, you should have, but you were too busy feeling sorry for yourself to pay attention." The words were harsh but not unkind. Rosa had a way of telling the truth that managed to be both brutal and gentle at the same time. "How do I fix it?" Lucas asked. "You don't fix it. You build something new, something better, something that doesn't break when life gets hard." "How?" Rosa gestured around the kitchen. "You start here. You learn how to be a father every day, not just when you feel like it. You learn how to be a husband who shows up, not just one who says pretty words." She handed him a dish towel and pointed to the sink full of bottles waiting to be washed. "And you learn that love is not a feeling, it's a choice. You choose it every morning when you get up. You choose it when the babies are crying and you're tired. You choose it when your mama disapproves and your friends don't understand." Lucas started washing bottles, letting Rosa's words sink in. "Did she tell you about Tuesday night?" he asked. "The museum thing?" "She told me. And it was about time." "That's it?" Rosa smiled, the first real warmth she'd shown him. "That's not nothing, Mijo. That was everything. You finally chose your family in front of people who matter to you. That's a start." "Just a start?" "Just a start. Now you have to keep choosing. Every day. Even when it's not dramatic. Even when it's boring. Even when it's just washing bottles at 9 in the morning, because that's what needs to be done." Lucas nodded, scrubbing formula residue from a tiny bottle. "Rosa? Thank you for being there for them when I wasn't. I wasn't doing it for you. I was doing it for them. I know. But still, thank you." Rosa was quiet for a moment, wiping down the high chair where Noah had been enthusiastically spreading crushed cereal. "You want some advice?" she said finally. "Please, stop trying to make up for lost time. You can't. What you can do is be present for the time you have left. Stop living in the past and stop worrying about the future. Just be here. Now." Today, from the bedroom came the sound of Mara's voice on a work call, professional and competent, discussing design deadlines and client needs. She was building a life, had been building a life for months while he'd been hiding in his apartment, feeling sorry for himself. "She's amazing," he said quietly. "Yes, she is. Don't forget that again." Lucas's phone buzzed. Another text from his mother. "Vivian. Lucas, we need to discuss Tuesday night. This family dinner tonight, 7 p.m. No excuses." He showed the text to Rosa, who read it and snorted. "Your mama's not happy." "No, she's not. You going?" Lucas looked around the kitchen, at the clean bottles drying on the counter, at Rosa feeding Nico tiny spoonfuls of baby food, at the closed bedroom door where Mara was working to support their family. "Yeah," he said, "I'm going, but not alone." Rosa raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that?" "I'm sure. It's time my mother met her grandsons properly, and time she learned to respect my wife. That's not going to be an easy conversation." "No," Lucas agreed. "It's not. But some conversations can't be easy. They just have to be true." From the nursery came the sound of the baby monitor crackling to life. One of the twins was waking up from their morning nap. "I'll get him," Lucas said, heading for the hallway. "Lucas," Rosa called after him. "Yeah? You're doing better. Keep it up." As Lucas walked toward the nursery, he felt something settle in his chest, something that felt like resolve. Tonight, he was going to have a conversation with his mother that was long overdue. And tomorrow morning at 6, he was going to be right here, making bottles and changing diapers and choosing his family. Every day, for the rest of his life. Starting now. Lucas spent the afternoon helping with the twins while Mara worked. He changed diapers, warmed bottles, and played peek-a-boo until both boys were giggling. It felt natural in a way that surprised him, like muscle memory coming back. At 4 o'clock, Mara emerged from her office looking tired but accomplished. "Good day?" Lucas asked, bouncing Nico on his lap. "Productive. I finished the Henderson project and started sketches for a new client." She paused, watching him with the babies. How was your afternoon? Good. Really good, actually. Noah learned to clap today. He's been working on that all week. The casual comment hit Lucas harder than it should have. Another milestone he would have missed if he'd stayed away. Another first that Mara had been celebrating alone. Mara, he said carefully, my mother wants to have dinner tonight. Family dinner, at her house. Mara's face went carefully neutral. Okay. I want you to come with me. You and the boys. Lucas, I know what you're thinking. That it's too soon. That it'll be awkward. That she'll make you feel unwelcome. But I need to do this. I need her to see us as a family. To treat you with the respect you deserve. Mara was quiet for a moment, studying his face. What brought this on? She asked finally. Everything. The gala, the blog post, the way I've been letting her think you're some kind of inconvenience that needs to be managed. She's your mother, Lucas. She's not going to suddenly welcome me with open arms because you decide it's time. Maybe not. But I need her to try. And I need her to know that this isn't negotiable anymore. That you and the boys are my priority. Mara looked down at Noah, who was contentedly chewing on his fingers. What if it goes badly? Then it goes badly. But we'll face it together. And if she says something hurtful, if she makes it clear that she doesn't approve of our family, then I'll make it clear that her approval isn't required for us to exist. Mara studied his face for a long moment, like she was trying to gauge how serious he was. Okay, she said finally, but we set ground rules first. Whatever you need. We arrive together and leave together. If anyone disrespects me or makes racist comments, we leave immediately. And you don't apologize for us being there. Deal. And Lucas, this isn't about winning her over. This isn't about making her like me. This is about you drawing boundaries and sticking to them. I understand. Do you? Because the minute you start trying to smooth things over or make excuses for her behavior, I'm done. With the dinner and with this whole thing. The warning was clear. This was a test, maybe the most important test he'd ever taken. I won't let you down, he said. We'll see. The Hart family estate sat on 5 acres of perfectly manicured lawn in the city's most exclusive neighborhood. Lucas had grown up in that house, running through those gardens, learning to ride his bike on that circular driveway. It had always felt like home, until tonight, pulling up in front of the imposing brick facade with Mara and the twins, it felt like enemy territory. Impressive, Mara said, looking up at the Georgian columns and tall windows. It's just a house. No, it's not. It's a statement. Old money, established family, traditional values. She looked at him. Are you sure you're ready for this? Lucas looked at the house where he'd been raised, where he'd learned that appearances mattered more than truth, where he'd absorbed the subtle lessons about who belonged and who didn't. I'm ready, he said. They got the twins out of their car seats and gathered the diaper bag. Noah was alert and curious, looking around at the unfamiliar surroundings. Nico was drowsy but content. The front door opened before they reached it. Vivian Hart stood framed in the doorway, perfectly dressed as always, pearls at her throat, not a silver hair out of place. She looked like she was posing for a magazine about gracious living. Lucas, darling, right on time. Her eyes flicked over Mara and the twins with practiced politeness. Not hostile, not warm, just neutral. Mother, you remember Mara, and these are your grandsons, Noah and Nico. Of course, please, come in. She stepped aside to let them enter. The front hall was exactly as Lucas remembered it. Marble floors, crystal chandelier, oil paintings of long-dead hearts looking down with stern approval. What beautiful children, Vivian said, but her voice had the tone of someone commenting on a stranger's family photos. Polite but distant. Thank you, Mara said simply. I've asked Elena to prepare the blue guest room upstairs if you need somewhere quiet for feeding or changing. The blue guest room, not the nursery Lucas had used as a child. Not any space that suggested these babies belonged here. A guest room, for visiting. That's thoughtful, Mara said, though Lucas could hear the coolness in her voice. They moved into the living room, where Vivian had set up what she probably thought was an appropriately casual family gathering. Wine and cheese, soft lighting, classical music playing quietly. It felt like a stage set. Can I get you something to drink? Vivian asked. Wine? Sparkling water? Water would be nice, Mara said. Lucas settled on the couch with Noah, while Mara kept Nico in his car seat. The baby was starting to fuss, making those little sounds that meant he'd be crying soon if someone didn't pay attention to him. He's getting hungry, Mara said. I should probably feed him before he gets cranky. Of course. Elena can show you to the guest room. She can feed him here, Lucas said firmly. It's just a bottle, nothing that requires privacy. Vivian's eyebrows went up slightly. Of course, whatever makes you comfortable. As Mara got Nico's bottle ready, Vivian sat in her usual chair and studied Lucas with the expression she'd perfected over 32 years of motherhood, the one that said she was seeing through whatever act he was putting on. So, she said, Tuesday night was quite eventful. It was. I've been getting calls all week. Board members, donors, people asking questions. Lucas felt his stomach tighten. What kind of questions? The kind that come when someone's personal life suddenly becomes public in unexpected ways. My family isn't unexpected, Mother. They're just not what you wanted. The words hung in the air between them. Vivian's face didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. That's not fair, Lucas, isn't it? When have you ever asked about the twins? When have you ever asked Mara about her work or her family or anything about her life? I've been respectful. You've been polite. There's a difference. Mara looked up from Nico's bottle, clearly uncomfortable with being discussed like she wasn't in the room. Maybe we should talk about something else, she said quietly. No, Lucas said. We shouldn't, because this is exactly the problem. Everyone's always trying to smooth things over instead of dealing with what's actually happening. And what exactly is happening? Vivian asked, her voice sharp now. What's happening is that I've been married for 3 years to a woman you've never bothered to know. I have 2 sons you've never held. I've been living a double life because I was afraid of disappointing you, and it almost cost me everything that actually matters. Lucas, I'm not finished. He stood up, Noah still in his arms. What's happening is that I brought another woman to that gala because I was ashamed to bring my wife, because somewhere along the way, I learned that love wasn't as important as appearance, that my happiness mattered less than your approval. Vivian's face had gone pale. That's not what I taught you, isn't it? When did you ever ask me if I was happy with Mara? When did you ever try to include her in family events or treat her like she belonged here? She never seemed interested. Because you never made her feel welcome. The words came out louder than Lucas had intended. In his arms, Noah startled and began to whimper. Across the room, Nico was watching the adults with wide, serious eyes. Mara stood up, moving toward Lucas. Maybe I should take them upstairs. No. Lucas gentled his voice, bouncing Noah softly. They're fine, and they should be here for this. He looked at his mother again. These are your grandsons, Mother. They're half of me and half of the most remarkable woman I've ever known. They're beautiful and smart and perfect. And if you can't see that because you're too focused on what other people might think, then you're the one missing out. Vivian was very still, her hands folded carefully in her lap. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. I never said they weren't wonderful children. You never said they were, either. I was trying to be appropriate, to give you space to work through your marriage issues without interfering. My marriage issues were caused by your interfering. By the way, you made it clear that Mara didn't meet your standards, by the pressure to present the right image to the right people. I never told you to leave your wife. You didn't have to. You just made it clear that my choices disappointed you, that the Foundation's reputation was more important than my family's happiness. Vivian looked across the room at Mara, who was holding Nico close, clearly wishing she was anywhere else. Is that how you see it? Vivian asked her directly. That I've been unwelcoming? Mara hesitated, clearly not wanting to make things worse. But Lucas could see her making a decision, choosing honesty over peace. Yes, she said simply. You've been polite, but you've never asked me a single personal question. You've never acknowledged that I have a career or opinions or anything beyond my relationship to Lucas. You've treated me like an accessory he picked up somewhere. I was trying to respect your privacy. Privacy from what? From being treated like family? The question hung in the air. Vivian looked from Mara to Lucas to the babies and back again. You're right, she said finally. I have been distant. I told myself I was being appropriate, but the truth is, I was hoping this would be temporary. The honesty was brutal and refreshing at the same time. Hoping what would be temporary? Lucas asked. The marriage, the children, this whole situation. Mara flinched like she'd been slapped. Lucas felt anger surge through him, hot and protective. Situation? He repeated. That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. You've been waiting for me to come to my senses and choose a more suitable wife. Someone white. Someone who fits your idea of what a heart should look like. Lucas, please. Say it, Mother. Say what you really think. That my children are too dark. That my wife is too different. That our family embarrasses you. Stop. Vivian's voice cracked. Just stop. The room went silent except for the baby's soft sounds. Noah had settled down again, but Nico was starting to fuss, sensing the tension in the room. I think we should go, Mara said quietly. No, Vivian said, surprising everyone. Please, don't go. She looked at Noah, then at Nico. Really, looked at them for the first time. May I? She paused, then tried again. May I hold one of them? Mara and Lucas exchanged a glance. This wasn't what either of them had expected. Which one? Mara asked. I don't. Which one is which? The question revealed everything. She didn't know her own grandsons well enough to tell them apart. This is Noah, Lucas said, shifting his son slightly. He's the fussier of the two. Always has been. And that's Nico. He's calmer, but he's got a stubborn streak. Like his father, Vivian said softly. Like both his parents, actually, Lucas replied. Vivian stood up slowly, moving toward them. May I hold Noah? Lucas hesitated for just a moment, then carefully transferred his son to his mother's arms. Vivian looked down at the baby with an expression Lucas had never seen before. Wonder, and something that might have been recognition. He has your eyes, she said quietly. But his mother's face. And her stubbornness, Lucas said. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Vivian looked up at Mara. Strong women raise strong children. It wasn't an apology, but it was something. Would you like to hold Nico too? Mara asked carefully. Yes, I would. As they arranged the exchange, Elena, the housekeeper, appeared in the doorway. Mrs. Hart, dinner is ready when you are. Thank you, Elena. We'll be right there. Vivian looked down at Nico, who was studying her with those serious green eyes that were exactly like his father's. Hello, little one, she said softly. I'm your grandmother. I know I haven't been very present, but I'd like to change that. She looked up at Mara and Lucas. If you'll let me. Lucas felt something tight in his chest start to loosen. Not forgiveness, exactly, but possibility. We'll see, he said, but it can't be halfway, Mother. If you want to be part of their lives, you have to accept all of us, as we are. No conditions, no waiting for us to change or conform or become more acceptable. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't about tolerance. This isn't about being polite to Mara, because you have to. This is about recognizing that she's my wife and the mother of your grandsons, and she deserves your respect. Vivian looked at Mara again. You're right. I haven't given you the respect you deserve. I've been narrow-minded, focused on things that don't actually matter. Like what? Mara asked. Like what people would say. Like how it would look. Like whether you fit into the life I'd imagined for Lucas. Vivian paused. Instead of seeing whether Lucas was happy, whether you made him a better man. And do you think I do? Mara asked quietly. Vivian looked at Lucas, holding one grandson while his wife held the other. She looked at the way he'd stood up for his family, the way he'd finally chosen love over appearances. I think, she said slowly, that the man who walked into that gala on Tuesday night was braver than the one I raised. And I think that's probably because of you. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. Shall we go to dinner? Vivian asked. I'd like to hear about these freelance projects Lucas mentioned, and I want to know what these boys like to eat besides formula. As they moved toward the dining room, Lucas caught Mara's eye. She looked cautiously optimistic, like she was willing to try but not ready to trust completely. That was okay. Trust had to be earned. But for the first time in 3 years, Lucas thought his mother might actually be willing to do the work. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. Vivian asked Mara about her textile design work, her family in North Carolina, her plans for when the twins were older. Real questions, personal questions, the kind of questions she should have asked 3 years ago. Your parents must be eager to see the boys, Vivian said, as Elena served dessert. They are. We're planning a trip down for Thanksgiving. How lovely. I'm sure they're wonderful grandparents. There was a wistful note in her voice that surprised Lucas, like she was realizing what she'd missed out on. They FaceTime every Sunday, Mara said. The boys don't understand it yet, but they like seeing faces on the screen. Technology is amazing, isn't it? Vivian looked at the twins, who were contentedly sitting in the high chairs Elena had retrieved from storage. Perhaps. Would it be possible for me to join one of those calls sometime? Mara looked at Lucas, who nodded encouragingly. I think that could be arranged, she said. I'd like that very much. After dinner, they moved back to the living room. Vivian seemed reluctant to let them leave, asking more questions about the boys' schedules, their personalities, their milestones. Nico's almost crawling, Mara said, watching him squirm on the carpet. Any day now. And Noah's working on pulling himself up to standing, Lucas added. They grow so fast, Vivian said softly. I remember when you were that age, Lucas. One day you were lying on your back, the next you were into everything. These two are definitely going to be mobile soon, Mara said. I need to start baby-proofing. I could help with that, Vivian offered, then seemed surprised at herself for saying it. I mean, if you'd like, I know some excellent services. We'd appreciate any recommendations, Lucas said carefully. They were all being so polite, so careful, like they were handling something fragile that might break if they moved too fast, which, Lucas supposed, they were. I should probably get them home soon, Mara said as Nico started rubbing his eyes. Bath time and bed. Of course, you have a routine to keep. As they gathered their things, Vivian walked them to the door. Thank you, she said quietly, for coming tonight, for giving me a chance to do better. Actions matter more than words, Lucas said, but this was a good start. Yes, it was. Vivian looked at Mara. I hope you'll come back, soon. Maybe without all the drama of tonight. Just a normal family dinner. I'd like that, Mara said, and Lucas could tell she meant it. As they loaded the twins into their car seats, Lucas felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, real hope, that his family might actually be whole again. That went better than I expected, Mara said as they drove through the quiet streets toward home. Much better. She really tried tonight. Yes, she did. I appreciate that. Lucas reached over and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Thank you, he said, for being willing to try, for giving her a chance to know the boys. They deserve to know their grandmother, all of their family. Lucas squeezed her hand gently. What are you thinking? I'm thinking. Mara paused, looking out at the city lights. I'm thinking maybe we could try couples counseling. If you're serious about making this work, I'm serious. Because I need more than good intentions, Lucas. I need a plan. I need to know that we're both committed to doing the hard work of rebuilding trust. Whatever it takes. Even if it means admitting things about yourself you don't want to face. Even if it means changing patterns you've had your whole life. Even then, Mara was quiet for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll look into counselors this week. We'll look together. This is something we do as a team. As a team, she repeated softly. When they got home, they worked together to get the twins ready for bed. Bath time, pajamas, bottles, stories. The kind of routine that makes a house feel like a home. I could stay, Lucas said as they finished cleaning up. Help with the night feeding. Mara looked at him, considering. Just to help? Just to help. No expectations, no pressure. Okay, you can take the couch. It wasn't an invitation back to their bedroom, but it was progress. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Nico usually wakes up around 2, and Noah's been teething, so he might be up more often. I can handle it. And he could. He wanted to. For the first time in months, Lucas wanted to be the one getting up in the middle of the night. Wanted to be the one solving problems and soothing babies and being useful. Wanted to be the husband and father he'd promised to be when they'd gotten married. As Mara headed for the bedroom, she paused in the hallway. Lucas? Yeah? Tonight was good, really good. But this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work to do. I know. And I need you to understand that I'm not the same person I was 3 months ago. I've had to learn to be strong in ways I never wanted to. I can't just go back to the way things were. I don't want to go back, Lucas said. I want to go forward. With you. If you'll let me. Mara smiled. The first completely unguarded smile he'd seen from her since the gala. Ask me again in a few weeks, she said. When we've both had some time to see if this is real. I will. After she disappeared into the bedroom, Lucas settled on the couch with pillows and blankets. The apartment was quiet, except for the soft sounds from the baby monitor. His phone buzzed, a text from his mother. Vivian, thank you for tonight, for bringing them, for helping me understand what I've been missing. I'd like to have lunch with Mara sometime, just the two of us, if she's willing. Lucas stared at the message, hardly believing it. His mother wanting to spend time alone with Mara, wanting to build a relationship instead of just tolerating her existence. He typed back, I'll ask her. But Mom, tonight meant a lot. To all of us. Vivian, I have a lot of making up to do. With all of you. I hope I'm not too late. Lucas, you're not too late. Love doesn't have an expiration date. Vivian, I love you, son. And I'm proud of the man you're becoming. Lucas set his phone aside and closed his eyes. For the first time in months, he felt like he was exactly where he belonged. At home, with his family. Building something real, instead of hiding from something true. When Nico woke up at 2:17 a.m., Lucas was ready. He warmed the bottle, changed the diaper, and rocked his son back to sleep while humming the lullaby Mara had been singing earlier. And when Noah stirred an hour later, Lucas was there for that too. Because this was what love looked like. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, just showing up. Every day, every night. Every time he was needed. Finally, the next few days fell into a rhythm that felt almost normal. Lucas arrived at 6 each morning for the feeding routine. He stayed to help with breakfast and morning playtime, then left for work when Rosa arrived at 9. He came back in the evenings for dinner and bath time, then went home to his apartment. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. On Wednesday, Mara found a couples counselor who specialized in rebuilding trust after infidelity. Dr. Sarah Martinez had an opening the following week. "Are you nervous?" Mara asked as they walked to their first appointment the following Tuesday. "Terrified," Lucas admitted, but in a good way, like jumping off a high dive. That's one way to put it. Dr. Martinez was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a direct manner. She spent the first session asking them to tell their story separately, then together. "What I'm hearing," she said after an hour of careful listening, "is that you both want the same things. Trust, partnership, a family that works. But you have different ideas about how to get there. How do we bridge that gap?" Lucas asked. "Time, consistency, and a lot of honest conversations about things you probably don't want to talk about." She gave them homework. Simple things. 20 minutes of conversation every day without phones or distractions. Written exercises about needs and expectations. A schedule for gradually rebuilding physical intimacy when they were both ready. "How long does this usually take?" Mara asked. "There's no timeline for healing," Dr. Martinez said. "Some couples see progress in weeks. Others need months or years. The important thing is that you're both committed to doing the work." "We are," Lucas said, looking at Mara. "Right?" "We are," she confirmed. That evening, they tried their first 20-minute conversation. Just talking. About their days, their hopes, their fears. No problem solving. No defending. Just listening. "I was thinking," Mara said as their timer approached the 20-minute mark, "maybe this weekend we could take the boys to the park. All of us together. I'd like that. Not as a family outing. Not as anything official. Just 4 people who care about each other spending time together." 4 people, Lucas repeated. "I can work with that." Saturday morning was crisp and clear. Perfect for the park. Lucas arrived with coffee and pastries from Mara's favorite bakery. "You remembered," she said, accepting the lavender latte he'd brought her. "Some things you don't forget." They loaded the twins into the double stroller and walked the 6 blocks to Meridian Park. It was busy with weekend families, kids on swings, parents pushing strollers, dogs chasing tennis balls. Normal life. The kind of life Lucas had been too afraid to want. They found a spot on the grass where the twins could practice crawling. Nico had finally figured out the coordination and was determinedly scooting toward an interesting leaf. Noah was content to sit and observe the world around him. "He's going to be the thinker," Mara said, watching Noah study a passing jogger with serious concentration. "And Nico's going to be the doer," Lucas added, chasing after the baby who had decided the leaf wasn't interesting enough and was now heading for a nearby picnic table. "Just like their parents." Lucas looked at her, surprised. "You think I'm a doer?" "You used to be, before you got scared. Remember when you convinced me to go skydiving for our first anniversary?" He remembered. The way Mara had been terrified but trusted him enough to jump anyway. The way they'd laughed all the way down. The way she'd kissed him when they landed, tasting like adrenaline and joy. "You hated that," he said. "I loved that. I hated the falling part, but I loved that you wanted to share something adventurous with me. That you thought I was brave enough to handle it." Lucas caught Nico just before he reached the picnic table and scooped him up. The baby giggled and reached for his father's nose. "I stopped thinking you were brave," Lucas said quietly. "Somewhere along the way, I started thinking you needed to be protected from things instead of included in them. Like what? Like my family, like work events, like anything that might be difficult or uncomfortable. Mara was quiet for a moment, bouncing Noah on her lap. I never needed protection from those things, she said finally. I needed partnership. I needed to know you had my back when things got hard. I know that now. Do you? Because protection and partnership look very different. Protection means keeping me away from problems. Partnership means facing problems together. Lucas settled back on the blanket with Nico, who immediately started trying to eat grass. How do I show you I understand the difference? You're already doing it, this conversation, counseling, bringing me to dinner with your mother instead of trying to manage the situation yourself. That's not enough. It's a start. A frisbee flew over their heads, chased by a golden retriever who bounded past their blanket with enthusiasm. Noah clapped his hands at the excitement. Nico dropped his grass and pointed after the dog. They like it here, Mara said. They like being outside, fresh air, room to move. I've been thinking about that, about giving them more space, maybe looking for a house with a yard. Lucas felt his heart skip. A house? Not necessarily with you, just, this apartment is getting small for 2 crawling babies who will be walking soon. I could help, with the search I mean, if you want. Mara looked at him carefully. What are you thinking, Lucas? Really? Where do you see yourself in 6 months? It was the question he'd been afraid she'd ask, because the answer was simple and complicated at the same time. I see myself here, he said, with you and the boys, in whatever form you'll have me, whether that's co-parenting or rebuilding our marriage or something in between. And your mother, your work, your old life? My mother is learning, work is just work, and my old life. He paused, watching his sons explore the world with fearless curiosity. My old life was smaller than this, lonelier than this. I don't want to go back to that, even if it means dealing with people who don't approve of your choices, especially then, because the only approval that matters is yours, and theirs, when they're old enough to have opinions. Mara was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached over and took his hand. I'm proud of you, she said simply, for the man you're becoming. I'm not there yet. None of us are. That's the point. We keep becoming. As the afternoon wore on, they fell into an easy rhythm, taking turns chasing mobile babies, sharing snacks, talking about small things and big things, and everything in between. It felt like being a family again, not the broken, complicated family they'd been, but something new, something stronger. As they packed up to head home, Lucas felt hopeful in a way he hadn't in months. Thank you, he said as they loaded the stroller. For what? For today, for trying, for believing that we might be able to figure this out. We might, Mara said. Or we might crash and burn spectacularly, but at least we'll know we tried. Very encouraging. I'm not going to lie to you, Lucas, or to myself. This is hard. Rebuilding trust after betrayal is one of the hardest things 2 people can do. But you think it's possible? Mara looked at him across the stroller, where both twins were starting to get drowsy from their afternoon of adventure. I think, she said carefully, that I'm willing to find out. As they walked home through the golden afternoon light, Lucas felt something shift inside him, a door opening, a possibility taking shape. Maybe they really could do this. Maybe love really was stronger than fear. Maybe there was still time to become the man his family deserved. But as they approached Mara's building, Lucas's phone buzzed with a text that would change everything. A message that would test every promise he'd made and every boundary he'd drawn. A message that would force him to choose, once again, between his old life and his new one. Vivian. Emergency board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. Major donor complaints about Tuesday's dinner. Need to discuss your future with the foundation. Please come alone. Lucas stared at the message, feeling everything he'd built over the past week start to crumble. What's wrong? Mara asked, noticing his expression. He showed her the text, watched her face close off as she read it. I see, she said quietly. Mara, this doesn't change anything, doesn't it? Your mother finally meets her grandsons, and 3 days later, there's a crisis meeting about your future. That's not a coincidence. Lucas, I know how it looks. It looks like the minute you chose us publicly, there were consequences, and now you have to decide if you're willing to face them. They'd reached her building. Mara was already unbuckling the twins from their stroller, her movements sharp with disappointment. What do you want me to do? Lucas asked. I want you to go to that meeting tomorrow and tell them exactly what you told me. that your family isn't negotiable, that your wife and sons are more important than donor approval. And if they fire me, then you'll find another job, one where you don't have to hide who you are. She was right, and they both knew it. But knowing it and doing it were different things. I'll be there at 6 tomorrow morning as usual, Lucas said, for the feeding routine. Will you? Or will you be too busy preparing for your meeting? The question hung between them like a challenge. I'll be there, he said firmly. We'll see. Mara disappeared into her building with the twins, leaving Lucas standing alone on the sidewalk. He looked at his mother's text again. Then he typed back a response. Lucas, I'll be there. But my family isn't up for discussion. If that's a problem, we should address it directly. Then he headed home to spend the night figuring out exactly what he was willing to lose for love, and what he was finally ready to fight for. Lucas didn't sleep much that night. He kept thinking about Mara's face when she'd read his mother's text, the way hope had drained out of her eyes, the way she'd pulled back into herself like she was preparing for another disappointment. He couldn't blame her. He'd disappointed her before. He'd chosen the easy path over the right one too many times to count, but not this time. At 5:45 a.m., he was standing outside her door with coffee and formula, just like he'd promised. When Mara opened the door, she looked surprised to see him. You came, she said. I said I would. Your meeting is in 3 hours. My meeting doesn't change our routine. Something in her face softened slightly. How are you feeling about it? Terrified, but clear about what I'm going to say. They worked together to feed the twins in comfortable silence. Noah was extra fussy, picking up on the tension in the room. Nico was his usual calm self, but he kept studying Lucas's face like he was trying to figure out what was different. Whatever happens today, Lucas said as he changed Noah's diaper, I want you to know that this, he gestured around the nursery, at the morning routine they'd built together, this is what matters. Not the foundation, not the board, this. I know you believe that right now, Mara said quietly, but believing it and doing it are different things. You still don't trust me. I'm trying to. But trust has to be earned, Lucas, and every time you're tested, you have to choose us all over again. Lucas finished with the diaper and lifted Noah into his arms. His son immediately grabbed onto his shirt and settled against his shoulder with a contented sigh. What would it take, he asked, for you to believe that I'm not going anywhere this time? Mara was quiet for a long moment, holding Nico while he dozed against her chest. Time, she said finally. Consistency. Proof that you'll choose us even when it costs you something. And if I lose my job today, then we'll figure out what comes next. Together. As a family. The word hung between them, full of possibility and fear. Is that what we are? Lucas asked. A family? We're something, Mara said carefully. What we are depends on what you decide today. Lucas arrived at the Hart Family Foundation offices 15 minutes early. The building was a converted mansion in the historic district, all polished marble and old money elegance. He'd always loved working there, loved being part of something bigger than himself. Today, it felt like a trap. His mother was waiting in the main conference room with 3 board members, Richard Morrison, Catherine Wells, and James Fletcher, all major donors, all people who'd known Lucas since he was a child, all white. Lucas, thank you for coming, his mother said formally. Please, sit. He took the chair across from them, feeling like he was facing a tribunal. I think we all know why we're here, Richard Morrison began. Tuesday's dinner has raised some concerns among our donor community. What kind of concerns? Lucas asked, though he already knew the answer. The foundation has always maintained a certain image, Catherine Wells said delicately. Traditional values, family orientation. Our donors appreciate consistency. And you think my family doesn't represent those values? It's not about what we think, James Fletcher said. It's about perception, about whether our donors feel comfortable supporting an organization whose leadership might be controversial. Lucas felt anger building in his chest. Controversial how? I'm married. I have children. I've been with the same woman for 3 years. Yes. But she's black, Lucas said flatly. That's what you mean, isn't it? That having a black wife and biracial children makes me controversial. The room went silent. No one wanted to say it out loud, but they didn't have to. The implication was clear. The Whitmore Foundation has expressed concerns, his mother said quietly, as has the Heritage Trust. They're questioning whether to continue their partnerships with us. Based on what? My job performance? The quality of our programs? Based on whether you represent the kind of leadership they want to support, Richard said. Image matters in this business, Lucas. You know that. Yes, I do know that. And for 3 years, I've let that knowledge dictate my choices. I've hidden my family. I've downplayed my marriage. I've lived 2 separate lives because I was afraid of exactly this conversation. Lucas stood up, needing to move. But I'm done with that. I'm done pretending my family doesn't exist to make other people comfortable. Lucas, his mother started. No, let me finish. You want to know about values, about family orientation? My wife is raising 2 babies while building a successful career. She's gracious and intelligent and kind. She makes me want to be a better man. My sons are healthy and happy and perfect. That's what real family values look like. We're not questioning their worth as people, aren't you? Because that's exactly what this feels like. You're asking me to choose between my job and my family because some donors are uncomfortable with the color of my wife's skin. Catherine Wells shifted uncomfortably in her chair. That's not how we would put it. Then how would you put it? What exactly are you asking me to do? The board members exchanged glances. Finally, Richard spoke. We're asking you to consider whether this position is still the right fit for your circumstances. Perhaps a role with fewer public responsibilities, something behind the scenes, so I can keep my job as long as I stay invisible. It would be temporary, James said quickly, until things settle down, until the donor concerns pass. Lucas looked at his mother, who had been unusually quiet during this exchange. She was staring at her hands, her face unreadable. What do you think, Mother? Should I hide my family to keep my job? Vivian looked up at him, and for a moment, Lucas saw something that surprised him. Shame. Not at him, but at herself. I think, she said slowly, that I've made a terrible mistake. The board members turned to stare at her. Vivian, Richard said carefully, I've spent the last 3 days with my daughter-in-law and grandsons, she said, really spending time with them, not just being polite. And I realized something. She stood up and walked to the window that overlooked the foundation's gardens. I raised my son to believe that appearance mattered more than substance. That fitting in was more important than standing up, and in doing so, I almost cost him everything that actually mattered. Vivian, we understand you're emotional about this. I'm not emotional, Richard. I'm clear. For the first time in years, I'm absolutely clear. She turned back to face the room. My grandsons are beautiful. My daughter-in-law is remarkable, and my son is finally the man I always hoped he would be. If our donors have a problem with that, then perhaps they're not the kind of people we should be taking money from. Lucas felt something shift inside him. His mother, standing up for his family, choosing them over appearances. Finally, Vivian, Catherine said carefully, you need to consider what you're saying. The financial implications. I'm considering exactly what I need to consider, which is that no amount of money is worth asking my son to be ashamed of his family. And if we lose major donors, if the foundation can't operate, then we'll find new donors, ones who share our actual values, not just our demographic profile. Richard Morrison stood up, his face red with frustration. This is ridiculous. You're going to destroy everything your husband built for the sake of political correctness. No, Vivian said firmly. I'm going to save what my husband built, because he would be ashamed of what we've become. He would be ashamed that we're even having this conversation. Lucas had never been prouder of his mother, or more surprised by her. So what are you saying? James asked. I'm saying that Lucas keeps his job, with no restrictions, no behind-the-scenes roles, no hiding. And if any of our donors have a problem with his family, they can direct their concerns to me. And if they pull their funding, then we'll throw better fundraisers, Lucas said, finding his voice again. We'll work harder to find people who believe in our mission, not just our appearance. The room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, Richard Morrison gathered his papers. I think this is a mistake, he said. But you're the board chair, Vivian. It's your call. Yes, it is. After the board members left, Lucas and his mother sat alone in the conference room. The morning sun was streaming through the tall windows, making everything look golden and hopeful. Why? Lucas asked. Why did you change your mind? Because Tuesday night, I saw who you really are when you stopped trying to please everyone, and I liked that person better than the one I've been raising for 32 years. I could still lose my job if the donors revolt. Then you'll find something else, something better, something that doesn't require you to hide who you are. Lucas felt tears prick his eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I have a lot of making up to do, starting with an apology to Mara. She'll appreciate that. Will she forgive me for the way I've treated her? Lucas considered the question seriously. If you mean it, if you really change. Mara's not the type to hold grudges, but she's also not the type to accept empty gestures. Then I'll have to make sure my gestures aren't empty. As Lucas walked back to his car, he felt lighter than he had in months. Not because the problem was solved, there would still be difficult conversations with donors, still be people who disapproved of his choices, but because he finally had allies instead of obstacles. His mother was on his side, his job was secure, at least for now, and most importantly, he'd proven to himself that he could choose his family when it mattered. Now he just had to prove it to Mara. When Lucas arrived at Mara's apartment that evening, she was in the kitchen making dinner while the twins played on a blanket in the living room. Rosa was there too, helping keep an eye on the babies. "How did it go?" Mara asked without looking up from the stove. "Better than I expected." Rosa looked up from where she was sitting with Nico. "You still have your job?" "I still have my job, and my mother stood up for us." Mara turned around, surprise clear on her face. "She did what?" Lucas told them about the meeting, about his mother's speech, about her decision to choose family over fundraising. "I don't believe it," Mara said when he finished. "I have it on good authority that she's planning to call you, to apologize properly." "Huh," Mara stirred the pasta she was making, processing this information. "And the donors? The ones who complained? We'll deal with them. Some will probably leave, but maybe that's not such a bad thing." Rosa stood up, gathering her purse. "Sounds like you two have some talking to do. I'll see you tomorrow, Mija." After Rosa left, Lucas and Mara were alone with the twins for the first time since the park. It felt different somehow, more settled. "I'm proud of you," Mara said as she served dinner. "For what?" "For choosing us, even when it might have cost you everything." "It didn't cost me everything. It got me everything." They ate dinner together, while the twins played contentedly nearby. It felt normal, domestic, like the family they'd always been meant to be. "I've been thinking," Mara said as they cleaned up, "about that house hunting I mentioned." "Yeah? Maybe we could look together, all of us. Find somewhere with a yard for the boys." Lucas felt his heart skip. "Are you asking me to move back in?" "I'm asking if you want to move forward, with us, really forward, not just co-parenting." "Yes, God, yes, more than anything. It won't be easy. We still have a lot of work to do. In counseling, in rebuilding trust, in figuring out how to be partners instead of just parents." "I know, and I'm different now. Stronger, maybe, more independent. I won't go back to being someone who needs to be protected or managed. I don't want you to go back. I want you to keep being exactly who you are now." Mara studied his face, looking for something, some sign that he meant it. "Okay," she said finally. "Let's try." "Really? Really. But we do this right. We keep going to counseling. We keep taking things slow. We keep choosing each other every day." "Every day," Lucas agreed. That night, for the first time in 3 months, Lucas slept on Mara's couch because he belonged there, not because he was being generous. When Nico woke up at 2 a.m., they took turns with the feeding. When Noah was fussy at 5, they worked together to settle him down. It felt like being a team again. The next few weeks passed in a blur of house hunting, counseling sessions, and gradual progress. They found a small house with a fenced yard in a diverse neighborhood full of young families. Nothing fancy, but perfect for 2 boys who would be walking soon. Vivian called Mara to apologize, then followed it up with lunch dates and offers to help with babysitting. She was clearly trying hard to build a relationship, and Mara was cautiously optimistic about letting her. Some donors did pool their funding, but others stepped up to fill the gap. The Foundation's mission remained strong, and Lucas found that he actually enjoyed the challenge of finding new supporters who cared more about results than appearances. Dr. Martinez helped them navigate the complicated process of rebuilding intimacy, physical and emotional. They moved slowly, carefully, earning trust with small gestures and daily consistency. Lucas moved back into the house the week before Thanksgiving. Not into Mara's bedroom, not yet, but into the guest room. Close enough to help with night feedings, close enough to be present, close enough to be home. On a cold December morning, 3 weeks before the twins' first Christmas, Lucas woke up to find Mara standing in the kitchen in her robe, making coffee. "You're up early," he said. "Nico's been stirring. I think he's getting another tooth. Want me to check on him?" "In a minute. I wanted to talk to you first." Lucas felt his stomach tighten with worry. They'd been doing so well. The house was working. Counseling was helping. They'd even started holding hands again sometimes. What about? Mara turned around, and Lucas was surprised to see that she was smiling. I think, she said carefully, that I'm ready for you to move into our bedroom, if you want to. Lucas felt his heart stop. Are you sure? I'm sure. We're not the same people we were a year ago. We're better, stronger, more honest with each other. Yes, we are. And I miss falling asleep next to you. I miss waking up and knowing you're there. Lucas crossed the kitchen and took her hands. I miss that too, every night. So let's stop missing it. They were interrupted by the sound of babies stirring from the nursery. Both boys, waking up together like they so often did. Duty calls, Mara said. Duty calls, Lucas agreed. But as they headed for the nursery together, Lucas felt something settle into place. Something that felt like completion. He was home. Really home. Not hiding. Not pretending. Not choosing between love and everything else. Just home. 6 months later, on a warm Saturday morning in June, Lucas stood in the backyard of their little house, watching Mara help Noah take his first real steps. Nico was already walking like he'd been doing it forever, but Noah had been more cautious about letting go of furniture. Come on, baby boy, Mara cooed from across the small yard. Come to Mama. Noah wobbled, arms out for balance, taking one shaky step, then another. When he finally reached Mara's arms, she swept him up with a huge smile. You did it. You walked. From his spot on the blanket, Nico clapped his hands and babbled something that sounded almost like, "Good job." Lucas pulled out his phone to record the moment, then stopped. This wasn't for social media or family updates. This was just for them. Just for this moment. Dad's turn, Mara called out. Come show Daddy how you walk. Noah toddled over to Lucas, more confident now. When he reached his father's arms, Lucas lifted him high in the air, making him giggle. I'm so proud of you, buddy. Look at you go. Vivian arrived an hour later for their weekly family dinner, carrying a bag of toys she probably didn't need to buy but couldn't seem to help herself with. Grandma, Nico called out, one of his newest words. Hello, my darling boys, she said, scooping him up. How are my grandsons today? Noah walked, Mara said. Real steps, across the whole yard. Oh, how wonderful. I'm so sorry I missed it. He'll do it again, Lucas said. He's quite proud of himself. As they settled in for lunch on the back deck, Lucas looked around at his family, Mara laughing at something Vivian said about the twins' eating habits. The boys covered in finger food and completely content. The life they'd built together in this small house, with its imperfect yard and second-hand furniture. It wasn't the life he'd imagined when he was younger. It was better. What are you thinking about? Mara asked, noticing his expression. Just this. All of this. How lucky we are. Even with all the sleepless nights and diaper disasters, especially with those. Vivian was helping Noah practice drinking from a sippy cup, while Nico tried to climb out of his high chair to explore. Your mother's gotten good at this, Mara said quietly. She has. I think she likes being a grandmother more than she liked being a mother. Different kind of love. Less pressure, more fun. Think she's really changed? Or is she just trying to make up for lost time? Mara watched Vivian patiently help Noah with his cup, her voice soft and encouraging. I think people can change when they have good enough reason, she said. And those two boys are pretty good reasons. That evening, after Vivian had gone home and the twins were asleep, Lucas and Mara sat on their back porch with glasses of wine, listening to the summer evening sounds of their neighborhood. Do you ever think about having more? Mara asked out of nowhere. More what? Kids? Lucas considered the question seriously. Do you? Sometimes. Not anytime soon. These two are more than enough for now. But someday. I'd like that. A little girl who looks like you, or another boy who looks like you. As long as they're healthy and happy, I don't care what they look like. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars come out over their small slice of suburban heaven. Lucas? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For choosing us, for doing the work, for becoming the man I always knew you could be. Lucas reached over and took her hand. Thank you for letting me, for giving me another chance when I didn't deserve it. We all deserve second chances. The question is what we do with them. What did we do with ours? Mara smiled, squeezing his hand. We built something real. Something that can weather storms instead of hiding from them. From inside the house came the soft sound of the baby monitor. one of the twins stirring but not quite waking up yet. "Should we check?" Lucas asked. "Give it a minute." Sometimes they settle back down. The sounds from the monitor quieted. Their boys, sleeping peacefully in the home their parents had fought to build. "I love you," Lucas said quietly. "I love you too. Even after everything? Because of everything. Because we didn't give up. Because we chose the hard path instead of the easy one." Lucas brought her hand to his lips and kissed it softly. "Here's to hard paths. Here's to choosing love. Every day. Every day." As they sat together in the gathering darkness, surrounded by the life they'd built from broken pieces and brave choices, Lucas felt something he'd never experienced before. Complete peace. Not the absence of problems, but the presence of certainty. This was where he belonged. This was who he was meant to be. A husband who showed up. A father who chose his children over convenience. A man who learned that love wasn't about finding the perfect person, but about becoming worthy of the love he'd been given. The baby monitor crackled softly again. This time, it sounded like Nico was really waking up. "Your turn or mine?" Mara asked. "Ours," Lucas said, standing up and offering her his hand. "Let's go together." Hand in hand, they walked into their house, toward their children, toward the midnight feeding that would be followed by another early morning and another day of choosing each other, toward the life they'd built one small, brave decision at a time, toward home. 2 years later, the Hart Family Foundation's annual gala was being held at the same museum where everything had changed 3 years earlier. But this time, Lucas walked through the entrance with Mara on his arm, and no secrets between them. Their sons, now 3 years old, were at home with Rosa, probably terrorizing their new babysitter with their endless energy and curiosity. They had a little sister now too, Emma, 6 months old, who had Mara's smile and Lucas's stubborn determination to stay awake past bedtime. "Mr. Hart," the same photographer from 3 years ago, called out. "Look this way." Lucas turned, his arm around Mara's waist, both of them smiling naturally at the camera. In tomorrow's paper, the photo would run with a caption about the Foundation's record-breaking fundraising year and their expanding family programs. "Beautiful as always, Mrs. Hart," Dr. Chen said as they entered the main hall. "How's little Emma adjusting to having big brothers?" "She's holding her own," Mara said with a laugh. "Noah tries to feed her his snacks, and Nico reads her books about trucks. She seems to enjoy the chaos." "Family chaos is the best kind," Dr. Chen agreed. "Are you ready for tonight's presentation?" Lucas nodded. This year, he was announcing the Foundation's new scholarship program for young artists from underrepresented communities. Mara had helped design it, drawing on her own experience as a black woman building a career in the arts. "As ready as we'll be," he said. As the evening progressed, Lucas found himself relaxing into the familiar rhythm of donor conversations and program updates. But this time, every story he told included his family. Every vision he shared reflected the values they'd built together. "The future of the arts," he said in his keynote speech, looking out at the crowd until he found Mara's face, "isn't about preserving tradition for tradition's sake. It's about making space for every voice, every story, every dream. It's about building bridges instead of walls. It's about choosing love over fear, every single time." The applause was thunderous, not because he'd said what people wanted to hear, but because he'd said what was true. After the formal program ended and the crowd moved to the reception, Kayla Brooks approached them with a warm smile. She'd become a genuine friend over the years, writing thoughtful pieces about the Foundation's work and occasionally babysitting the Hart children when Rosa was unavailable. "Wonderful speech tonight," she said. "Mind if I get a quote for next week's article?" "Of course," Mara said. "What do you want to know? What's next for the Hart family? Any big plans?" Lucas and Mara exchanged a glance, both thinking of the conversation they'd had that morning about possibly expanding their family again. About the house hunting they'd started for something with more bedrooms and a bigger yard. About the dreams they were still building together. "More of the same," Lucas said finally. "More family, more love, more choosing each other, every day." "That's a good quote," Kayla said with a grin. "Mind if I use it? It's all yours." As they drove home through the quiet city streets, Mara reached over and took Lucas's hand. "Good night," she asked. "The best, though I missed having the kids there. Next year, when they're old enough to sit through a whole dinner without staging a revolt. Think, Emma will be walking by then. At the rate she's going, she'll be running. and probably organizing the other two into some kind of toddler rebellion. Lucas laughed, picturing their strong-willed daughter leading her brothers in some elaborate scheme. We're going to have our hands full. We already do, and I wouldn't change a thing. Not even the 5 a.m. wake-up calls? Especially not those. That's when they're the sweetest, all sleepy and snuggly and still believing we have all the answers. Do we? Have all the answers? Mara was quiet for a moment, thinking. We have the only answer that matters, which is love. Show up, choose each other, and love, through everything else. As they pulled into their driveway, Lucas looked up at their house. Warm light glowed in the windows. A tricycle sat abandoned on the front lawn. A small garden that Mara had planted bloomed along the walkway. It looked exactly like what it was, a home where a family lived and loved and built their dreams together, one ordinary day at a time. Inside, Rosa was sleeping on the couch, while the monitor played soft sounds from upstairs. They thanked her quietly and sent her home, then checked on their children. Noah and Nico, in their twin beds, exhausted from a day of preschool and playground adventures. Emma in her crib, tiny fist curled against her cheek, dreaming whatever dreams 6-month-old babies dream. Perfect, Mara whispered, adjusting Emma's blanket. Absolutely perfect, Lucas agreed. Later, as they got ready for bed in the room they'd shared for over 2 years now, Lucas caught Mara's eye in the bathroom mirror. Happy anniversary, he said. Anniversary of what? Tonight, 3 years ago. When you walked into that museum and changed everything? Mara smiled at the memory. I didn't change everything. I just refused to be invisible. Same thing. Is it? For me, it was. You showing up that night with the boys, refusing to hide, demanding to be seen as my wife. That's when I finally understood what courage looked like. It wasn't courage, it was necessity. I was tired of being a secret. Well, whatever it was, it saved us. It saved me. Mara turned to face him, reaching up to straighten his tie from the evening's event. We saved each other. That's how it works when it's real. Is that what this is? Real? It was a callback to one of their first conversations after that night at the museum, when they were both afraid to hope that what they were rebuilding might actually last. This is as real as it gets, Mara said, kissing him softly. Midnight feedings and preschool concerts and family dinners with your mother, budget meetings and grocery runs, and deciding whose turn it is to clean up after the kids destroy the living room. Don't forget foundation galas where we actually get to dress up and pretend we're sophisticated adults. Those too, all of it. The boring parts and the beautiful parts, and everything in between. I love the boring parts, Lucas said, meaning it completely. Me too. From down the hall came the soft sound of Emma stirring. Not crying yet, but making the little noises that meant she'd be hungry soon. I'll go, Lucas said automatically. We'll go, Mara corrected, taking his hand. Together, they walked down the hallway toward their daughter's room, toward another night feeding, toward another day of choosing each other and building the life they'd fought so hard to create. Behind them, their sons slept peacefully. Ahead of them, whatever tomorrow would bring. And in between, this moment, this choice, this love, every day, forever.